Hey there, welcome to LSea Yoga. My name is Laura, and today's class is a beginner slow flow. We're going to get nice and stretched out. So if you're ready, get on your mat and I'll meet you there. We'll begin today in child's pose. So come to the back of the mat, let the knees go wide, and start to drape the torso over the legs. You can reach the arms forward or maybe bring them closer, your choice. Maybe the forehead comes to the ground, maybe you stack your fists. Find a comfortable child's pose where you can let the hips sink toward the heels, and if it's uncomfortable at all on the knees, come up a little higher. And then start to deepen the breath. Breathing into the back. Deep, full breaths. Let the breath go where it doesn't normally in your day-to-day. Just arrive here on the mat. And then when you're ready, lift the head and start to come forward onto hands and knees. Then step your right foot forward into a lunge. Use your hand behind the heel to get it up there if needed. And place your hands on the front thigh and come on up. And from here, let your left hip push forward. So you start to feel a nice stretch in the front thigh. And from there, you can start to sink into the hips. But you want to keep the lower back nice and long. So pressing the left hip forward, your chest goes up toward the sky. And just start to let the hips open up. And then we'll bring the hands around the front foot and let the hips get even heavier. Just let them sink right down. Chest goes forward. Crown of the head up toward the sky. Just get a nice stretch. Deep breaths. And then start to pull the hips back. Let the toes go up toward the sky. And we'll take half split. So you can let your knee be deeply bent here. We just want to make sure that we're tilting the pelvis forward. So again, your chest is going toward the front of the mat. And you're pulling your hip back and your front heel is planted into the ground. So pull the hip back to work the knee towards straightening, but it doesn't need to straighten. You really want your stomach to be on your thigh. So we don't want to be rounded like this. We want to be flat like that. Deep breaths into the back of the leg. Your back toes can be curled under or the foot can be flat on the floor. You choose. So with each breath, let the crown of the head go forward. As you inhale and then as you exhale, pull the hip away from that. And then lean forward and we'll come back into that lunge. So let the hips drop. Stay on the fingertips. If this isn't working for you, you can bring the elbows to the front knee. And just let that drop, get that nice stretch in the front of the left hip flexor. And we'll do that 2 more times. So place the fingertips on the ground, pull the hips back, toes go up toward the sky. Crown of the head forward, deep breath in. Exhale, pull the hips back. Do that with each breath. Coming forward, chest reaches forward, hips drop, look up. Deep, slow breaths. Breathe into the hips. On your next exhale, pull the hips back. Breathing in, crown of the head forward. Breathing out, hips back. This time coming forward, step your right knee to meet your left, and we'll come right back into child's pose. This time, leave your fingertips tented, and you can add a little shoulder stretch. It's good stuff, especially if you've been sitting a lot. Come on forward onto hands and knees, and we'll step the left foot forward this time. Bring the hands to the front thigh and come on up. Same thing this side. So now we're pressing the right hip forward, getting a stretch in that hip flexor. You can let the hips get heavy, but press that hip forward to keep the lower back long and let your chest go up toward the sky. Keep the breath nice and slow. Use your front foot as a brake, so if it feels like too much, come back up out of it. Place some padding under your back knee if that's feeling uncomfortable. And then coming forward, place the fingertips on the ground, chest goes forward. Drop the hips. We're really getting into that right hip flexor, so let that get heavy and breathe into that. Now your next exhale will pull the hips back, toes go up toward the sky, same thing this side, half split. Knee can be bent. Inhaling, crown of the head goes forward. Exhaling, pulling the hip back. Your left heel is planted in the ground. Toes are singing soprano up toward the sky. Let's do that a couple more times. So coming forward into the lunge, chest goes forward, drop the hips. 2 big breaths here. And then as you exhale, pull back, half split. And breathe. Coming forward, low lunge. And pulling back, half split. This time as you come forward, plant the hands and bring your left knee to meet your right and come back into child's pose, tenting the fingertips, stretch the shoulders. This time we'll add a little side stretch. So walk your fingertips over toward the left and then lean into your right armpit and right side waist. Open that up, breathe in there. And then walk your fingertips over toward the right. Do the same thing, leaning into the left armpit this time, left side waist. And then come on back to center, and this time we'll come on up onto hands and knees. Step your right foot forward into a lunge, and this time let it go to the outside of your right hand. So both hands are on the inside of your right foot. And then drop the hips. Arms can start out straight, and you're in a lizard pose. If this isn't feeling too good, go ahead and you can come back onto fingertips, or maybe place your hands on a block, and that'll keep it from being too intense. We're just stretching into the right hip, so let the hips get heavy. If you're feeling more open, you can come down onto elbows, but it's certainly not required. Feel free to stay up on your hands. Deep breaths into the hips. If you're up on a block, it does not take anything away from the pose. It just makes it accessible. So there are people who've been doing yoga a long, long time, use blocks all the time. It really just depends on your anatomy. Now, wherever you are, let your left hand stay down, and we're just going to reach up with the right, and then back toward the back foot. Now, if that feels okay, you can stay right there. If your hip wants to let the knee wing out toward the right and come on to the outer edge of the foot, that's okay. And then you may want to bend your back knee. Maybe not. If you do, maybe grab a hold of that ankle. And then kick the foot back and let it open the chest. And lift up out of your left shoulder. So don't sink down into it. And just open and breathe. This pose covers a lot of real estate. So we're in the hip on the right side, we're in the hip flexor on the left, and the quad. We're getting strong in our left arm, pressing down with the fingertips. And we're back bending, opening the chest. There's a lot going on. But modify so that this works for you. If you're here, just with both hands on the ground, that's perfectly okay. Now, if you reach back for the foot, go ahead and release it. Bring the hands forward, and then we're just going to step on back into child's pose with that shoulder stretch, fingertips tented. Deep breath into the nose and let it out through an open mouth. And let's take that to the other side. So come on up, left foot to the outside of the left hand. Bring the hands to the ground and sink the hips. Lizard pose. Come up onto your block if you have one. If you're feeling more open, lower down onto the elbows. If you want to wing the foot out to the side, you can flex that foot, come onto the outer edge and let the knee go left. And maybe lift your left arm up, lifting up out of the right shoulder. Maybe the arm reaches back. Maybe the knee bends and you grab a hold of that foot or ankle and then pull it back so you open the chest. Gripping them out with your finger pads to stay lifted up and out of the right shoulder. Couple more deep breaths here. And then release if you reached back, and bring both knees back together, and we're back in child's pose. Tented the fingertips, stretching it out. And coming forward, we'll do one more in a lunge pose. So bring your right foot forward into a lunge in between your hands. Come on up, placing the hands on the front knee or thigh. This time, reach forward with your left arm, and then bring that elbow to the outside of your right knee. Use your right hand on your right thigh to twist toward the right. So you want to twist toward with the from the belly button here, not the shoulders. All right, so twist toward the right, and then bring the hands into prayer. You may also want to ball your left fist and then place your right hand on top. Twisting toward the right and revolve prayer twist. So you're pressing down to lift up out of the left shoulder and twisting right. Find the hand position that works for you, twisting from the belly button. And more than anything, this is a hip stretch. So we're stretching the hip and the knee away from each other. So pull your right hip back. If you turn your head and look up, smile pretty for your picture. Deep breaths. And then turn, come back, bring your fingertips around your front foot, pull the hips back, and we'll come back into half split. Inhaling the crown of the head forward and exhaling, pulling the hip back. Knee can be bent. Breathe deep here, feeling a little more open this time. So pull that hip back. Couple of big breaths. And then bring your right knee to meet your left. And this time we're going to come straight into the next one. So bring your left foot forward into a lunge. Place the hands on the front thigh. Come on up. Reach forward with your right hand. Bring your elbow to the outside of the left knee. Then using your left hand on the thigh, twist toward the left. Hands in prayer or right hand in a fist. Press up and out of the right shoulder as you twist toward the left. Hips are sinking down. You're pulling your left hip away from the left knee as you twist deeper from the belly button. Breathe and open. And then releasing that, come forward, frame the front foot with your fingertips, pull the hips back, toes go up, half split. Inhaling, crown of the head toward the front of the mat. Exhaling, hips toward the back of the mat. Knee can be as bent as it needs to be. And then come forward a little bit so you can bring both knees together and you're on hands and knees. Walk the knees forward so you can come through into a seated position. Bring your right foot forward and your left foot to the inner right thigh. Just like we did in half split, plant your front heel, bend the knee, and then pull the hip away from that. You can keep the knee bent, but you're trying to tilt the pelvis forward. And it may help to sit up on something to help that happen. What we really want to avoid is this, rounding forward. So bend the knee so the top of the pelvis can come to the thigh, and then pull that hip back. Keeping the knee bent if we need to, the chest is going toward the toes. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Breathing into the back of the leg. If you want to add a little twist, maybe you grab the outside of the left foot or bring the hands toward the right and then twist toward the right. Did I say left foot? I meant right foot. That little twist can get into the left side waist. If not, just be facing forward. Chest going toward the toes. And then walk the hands up, bring the bottoms of the feet together. Knees go out to the side for a Baddha Konasana or butterfly pose. Rock the hips back and forth so you can again tilt the pelvis forward. Lift the chest as you take a deep breath in. And then start to lean forward. Maybe the fingertips are behind. That's going to help you keep the lower back long. And as you breathe deep, just let gravity do its thing. And as your hips open up and let you in, maybe your hands come forward. Maybe they don't. The chest is going forward just like it does in all forward folds, so that we don't round and pull the spine. Your feet can be as close to your hips or as far away as you want. And you may be sitting up straight like this. Completely okay. You're just looking for a nice stretch. It depends on where that is for you. One more big breath here. And then come on up and let your left foot go out, this time with your right foot to the inner thigh. Same thing, planting the heel, knee is bent, then pull the hip back and away from that. Start to tilt forward. And just like in Baddha Konasana, maybe your fingertips are behind, and then it can help you tilt. Keeping the lower back long. Maybe you add the twist. And then walking the hands back up. This time we'll take Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. But before we do, bring your feet out in front of you, flex the feet. Sort of walk the hips back so you start to tilt the pelvis, but we're going to bend the knees as needed. Press the hands into the ground and lift the chest. And this is staff pose, but that's kind of the action we're going for in a forward fold, is that powerful chest forward. So lift it up as you press the hands down. And then as we go into forward fold, let your knees bend, bring the fingertips behind you, lift the chest. Same thing. And then if your body lets you in, meaning you're not feeling much stretch, start to walk the fingertips forward. So you're starting to tilt, but your chest is still pressing away from them. Now that's where the good stretch is. We don't want to stretch into the back, we want to stretch into the legs. Now if your body's okay with it, maybe rocking the hips, maybe the hands come forward. But if you see pictures of someone with their nose on their shin and you want to do that, great, if your body lets you do that. But most of us don't, no matter how long we do yoga. So it's more important the chest go toward the toes. Pull the hips back and away from that. And then walk the hands on up. And we'll do a couple more for the hips. And then we'll rest in Shavasana. So next is we're going to do Gomukhasana. All right, so bring your right leg over your left. And we're going to work towards stacking the knees, but they don't have to stack. So they can be like this, completely fine. If your bottom knee is not comfortable with this, straighten it out in front of you. Right? We're really just going for a stretch in the outer right hip. Right? That's all we're shooting for here. You straighten your bottom leg, you're also going to get a nice stretch in the bottom of that leg. If your knees are feeling good, you can work toward stacking the knees, flex the feet and press them down. Lift the chest, maybe putting the hands on the feet, and then start to tilt forward. Same thing, maybe the fingertips are behind. And just lean in, you're really just looking for a nice stretch in the outer right hip. Deep breaths. If you're not feeling much, maybe you want to add a twist. You can bring your left elbow to the outside of the right knee and then twist toward the right. But again, you're pulling your knee away from your hip, and that intensifies the stretch. not required. It can be here. And then coming on up, we'll take double pigeon. So we're going to stack our ankles and knees. So flexing the feet, put your right ankle on your left knee, and maybe both ankles and knees touch. Maybe they don't. Mine aren't today. And if this isn't comfortable, you may want to support that knee or put something underneath it. Same thing, if your bottom knee isn't feeling good, straighten it out in front of you, but your ankle will be on your knee as you start to lean forward. We're just looking to open the right hip. All right. So maybe you're here, maybe your shins are kind of in line and your feet are flexed and your chest is going forward. Deep breaths into the hips. And then coming on up, we'll just take that to the other side. So bring your right knee or right leg underneath, left leg over. Work towards stacking the knees or straightening the bottom one out in front of you. Maybe supporting that knee, flexing the feet, fingertips behind, starting to tilt. Breathe and open in that left hip. Maybe adding the twist with the elbow into the knee. Coming back to center, double pigeon. So ankles to knees, flexed feet. Straightening the bottom leg out in front of you if you feel the need. Leaning into the hips. Breathe and open. There's a couple of ways to warm and open muscles. So you can do a lot of movement to get them warmed up and then stretch them out, which is what a lot of yoga classes will do. And that works. The other way is to breathe into those muscles as you stretch them. And by breathing into them, I mean envision that set of muscles getting bigger and releasing with every breath. Release that, lean back, bring the legs out in front of you. Maybe bring your feet about the width of the mat, and we'll just windshield wipe the knees back and forth. We did a lot of outward rotations. We'll just rotate them inward a little bit to release that. Then roll down onto your back, draw your knees into your chest, give them a squeeze. And then release your legs out in front of you. Let the feet flop open, hands, palms to the sky. Close the eyes, get comfortable, Shavasana. Let the breath do whatever it wants. And just sink into the floor. Shavasana is the most important part of yoga. It may seem like the least, but it's the most. It's where the body begins to integrate what it's learned. And as you scan the body and progressively release muscles that you notice are tense, no matter how tiny each micro muscle may be, that is a practice that creates a skill that we can use to de-stress at any time, not just after yoga. And you can use it to fall asleep. So scan the body now. Start at the feet. Work your way up the legs, up the torso, relaxing everything you find that's tense along the way. To the back, shoulders, and the arms. The neck, back of the head, even the muscles of the face. Let it all release. Now you can stay here as long as you like. But when you're ready, start to bend the knees, bring the bottoms of the feet to the floor, and the hands to the upper thighs. Draw the knees in toward the chest, wrap your arms around the knees, give them a squeeze. And then roll on up to sit. Find a comfortable seat, simple cross-legged, maybe half lotus. I only sit in half lotus because it feels better on my knee. Bring the backs of the hands to the knees and close the eyes. Take a deep breath in through the nose and let it out through an open mouth. Make a sound. Even with this short, slow flow practice, open up some things that needed opening. Calm the nervous system and reset. So you're ready to go back into your day or your evening. Hands in prayer in front of the heart, bow the head. Namaste. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed today's class and you're looking for more, join me over on LSeaYoga.com. There you're going to find lots of classes and content that doesn't exist here on YouTube. Longer classes, complete beginner series, intermediate flows, lots of content that is commercial free and exclusive to the website. So if you're ready, join me on LSeaYoga.com and I'll meet you there.